Welcome to another edition of Choreographed Critics. Today we will be catching you up on the events of the past month. And welcome to the show, everybody. I'm John. Joining me as always is Joel.
Howdy doody, John. Yeah, what a whirlwind of events post Mania. I love how we kind of addressed this episode as we're just gonna try to catch you up. We're gonna bring you up to speed with all the crazy new story trajectories and everything that's unfolded since Mania. Backlash occurred. We didn't get a chance to deep dive Backlash, but Saturday night's main event just happened, so that's fresh.
Yeah, I'm in my Saturday night's main event. Fan apparel today, coordinated. Hell yeah, brother. Um, no, but we're kind of both in a mindset of things are starting to take like numbers and profitability seem to be more prevalent than ever. And I'm just joking around today wearing my corporate, sponsored by type of look, even though it's just generic stuff I bought on Amazon
You,
for fun.
you need all American beer.
I wish I
What?
had some, yeah. I have Nos. Nos is I don't know.
Not affiliated whatsoever with us.
No, no. Maybe once we get 20 subscribers, they'll, you know,
They'll reach out.
yeah, they'll reach out. So make sure to mash that subscribe button if you haven't already, and tell your friends.
That's
We're
right.
trying to get some actual money here. Um,
And get juiced and jolted on some Nas. Okay. But beyond plugging that, I'd say plugging in the numbers for WWE has become their number one meal ticket. They culture's taken a bit of a backseat. What we got used to under Paul Levesque's 2 year reign about. I always post his reign starting from that SummerSlam with Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns to this recent WrestleMania. And now I feel like we are in a different time period where Nick Khan and the board of directors have a little bit more pull ever since we went to Netflix. And we touched on that because we felt the corporate presence for the Netflix premiere. But as far as story and narrative, I don't want to say it's like stagnated, but in some ways it has. For me, I'd say the number one thing is they don't have consistent long form storytelling right now, and they're just kind of after Mania unpackaging all these new paths for their talent. And they had a lot of releases too over the last month or so.
right. And I think when we last talked, we were at the point where Gunther had attacked Pat McAfee, but there wasn't like a clear what was going to come from that at the time. So that ultimately led to Pat and Gunther at Backlash, which people have mixed opinions on. I mean, there's the opinion of why does Pat McAfee need to be in a match? Like, they have this whole roster of people, and it's a rushed angle just for something for Gunther to do, I guess. So that wasn't exactly my cup of tea, but there's the other side of it where people are just like, I mean, you got to give Pat his props. Like he put out a pretty good match, and he can bump, he can do like the facial stuff. The in ring work is obviously not polished, but he's not expected to be an active competitor. Um, so I just feel like that's like an example of kind of the state of things where we have kind of this two sides to it thing where it's just like, yeah, I wish that our time and resources were being utilized in other ways, but at the same time, like I recognize like what they actually did put out was okay. Um, so
Yeah.
it I don't really like that going forward if that's going to be how everything is, you know, like it would just be nice if there was a world where whatever they're putting out is also like complementary to their stats, basically. um
Right, right. The inconsistency there, and what a technician Gunther is. He could carry a guy like McAfee, who has publicly stated wrestling was a dream when he was a child. So I feel like he's like, I'll do it. Shit, yeah, throw me in there with Gunther. And Gunther's like, I'll carry him, blah, blah, blah. And but let's be honest, a better move would be have Gunther off air for a little bit. The guy was a workhorse since his Intercontinental Championship days up until now, and I feel like they gave him like 1 week off after Mania. And you're right, though, John. The breakneck pace at which they're trying to establish feuds is a little bit jarring. You can't accelerate angles the way they've been doing it because like long-term fans see the inconsistencies. Like I right away go like, "Oh, Solo Sikoa's in the mid card, but he defeated John Cena a while back, and there's no like they're on the same brand. They're both on SmackDown, and Solo's not like, hey John, since you got that title around your back, I beat you last year. Not a peep of that. He's in the mid card. And so like the angles you think they would run with for long form storytelling, they haven't touched. And they're generating all these new angles at a breakneck pace.
right. And this is a separate conversation, I guess, but the SmackDown mid card almost is the top of the card right now just because of like Cena being champion and not being on TV every week. So like
Excellent point.
it's this weird what do you want to call it? I don't know, just balance, I guess. But like Solo, for instance, so yeah, he's definitely in the mid card when you consider what the mid card is, not like how it's kind of this is just my opinion, it being a little more seeming like it's actually the top of the card just because it's the only title um, right now that's obtainable. And they had Solo win the triple threat qualifier to get in the Money in the Bank ladder match, which kind of puts you at the top of the card when you have that briefcase anyway. Um, but anyways, that was a tangent. I agree. Like they should like reference stuff like that where yeah, just have Solo at least bring up like yeah, I beat this so called legend last year. Why is nobody talking about me here? And um yeah, and how do you feel about like how things have gone with him in Fatu? I guess since we're
Um,
talking Solo.
hmm. Yeah. So the bloodline for me, we watched Solo go from this like blah 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 to he was Fatu under Reigns. And then he became overnight, by the way. That was jarring, and I mentioned it when we first started broadcasting. His mafia reform. Like he became like a mob boss for a few months. He was like dressing in the suits and he was wearing leather gloves and he was just like, this is my family. And then Fatu started to get more spotlight, and I feel like it was a bad move to have Solo become this almost like submissive person to Fatu. And they could have done it in a way, if you recall, Jacob Fatu used to be like, I love you, Solo. And then one day Solo's like, hey man, cheer up. I love you, Fatu. And I thought, oh, okay, so they're changing roles. But they haven't officially announced that they've changed roles. So this long little tease that they keep having between Solo and Fatu is just the same old shit we saw with the old bloodline repackaged. And I'm not buying it, man. I'm not entertained because Fatu is fun to watch alone. He doesn't need a group. Adding in Mateo or Cobb, that's questionable. It's like, okay, so now Fatu is going to have somebody who is equal to him in size and like punishment. But isn't that what Solo should be with Fatu already? And so anyway, John, with the bloodline, I feel like It's very recycled. It's a that is stagnant. I will say that. The current Bloodline storyline is stagnant, and I feel it week in and week out. And even you have joked the no gas or all gas, no brakes, and then whatever he rattles off after that. Do you
Yeah,
have any other
me.
lines? Yeah, you know what I mean? It's like that whole the Uso. I don't know what they're doing with Big Jim. They just kind of slide him into stuff. Everything that is shot off from the bloodline was only interesting because of Roman Reigns and his context as champion and that power struggle. I'm not buying the power struggle of the new bloodline, even if you have a title on Fatu.
Right. Yeah, and it's not the world title, so there again it doesn't matter as much. And the Ulafala died before Roman died, I guess. Like we've seen
Yeah,
Roman more recently than the Ulafala. Um, yeah, and the thing with the Bloodline too is like they can just keep doing this into perpetuity because there's so many people from the island of Samoa that just are somehow related to the Rock's cousin's brother. I don't know.
right.
Like, there's always going to be some sort of connection there. And but to be fair, Jeff Cobb, Mateo, JC, whatever. I don't know. Is he Samoan? I didn't actually ever look into that.
He's he's partially Samoan and Hispanic, but I do not believe he has a direct lineage
So it's
to
kind of
their
like
family.
Bronson Reed because
Yeah,
Bronson's
yeah, he
yeah.
looks like he could be there. Which we'll get to Bronson his return, which was great by the way. Um, the Rollins faction is becoming more interesting than the Bloodline story. Um, it is fresh, but no, going just to kind of put a little cherry on top of my issue or concern for the Bloodline. Uh, they so where are the Tongans?
They're hurt.
They're both hurt. Okay, because like I don't want to see what I saw happen with Gunther, where you have an intercontinental championship reign, a lot of little like narratives being built around Kaiser, Ludwig, and Imperium and Gunther, and then they silently just separate people from the story. Like Ludwig Kaiser apparently has no relation to Gunther at all anymore. It just happened. They slowly faded him into the background, and occasionally he would be doing promos in the back, being like, "Oh, you step to the ring, General," and then slowly that even stopped, and it's like down the memory hole. So I hope they don't do that with the Bloodline. I hope they don't just silently be like, the Tongan's been out for a while. Let's just shoot them down the memory hole and forget they were ever a part of this and focus on these three.
I feel like
Three being the new guy.
there's a chance they add another new guy at some point, and the Tongans come back, and then there's like this Bloodline 2.0, 3.0 struggle.
It's the
Like
3
Fatu and the
year.
Tongans versus Solo, JC Mateo, and some other guy. Um,
Right, right.
just
With
do it
that being
again.
said, John, top of the card. So yeah, you're right. In the absence of Cena and his farewell tour, you do get LA Knight, you get the Bloodline, and now you get Wyatt Six, arguably in that tag division. I feel like that's all interchangeable. All their mid card level talent can be top of the card without Cena there. So I think you're 100% correct. They've diversified and elevated talent you don't normally see as big draws
Yeah.
for a
And you can
main event.
yeah, and you can throw Drew McIntyre and Drew Priest or Damian Priest in there, but like they've
True
been
Priest.
Drew Priest, yeah. They they've actually been top of the card for a while, but they had a match yesterday. Trying to think, is there anything like I'm in a weird spot where like if I want to talk about stuff that have happened in the last month, like I just don't know if it's gonna matter the next
Sure.
time we do a podcast. Like because there's
Sure.
just so much stuff that we talked about a month ago where we're like, oh yeah, it seems like this is branching off to this, and we got beginning of this happening, and now I don't know if we're in the middle of feuds, if feuds have ended. Um, just kind of speaking general here, but
Yeah,
um,
where we are.
so like even with this new Seth faction thing, so last night on Saturday night's main event, it was Seth Rollins and Bronson Reed versus Sami Zayn and CM Punk, and I don't know where they're at with that now after that match.
Yeah, it was just to
They
bring back Reed.
Yeah, they brought back Bronson Reed, who, when he had left TV, he basically was just in the War Games match against the New Bloodline. Or, sorry, he was in the New Bloodline against
Yeah, he's
Roman
like
in
a
the
gun for
original.
hire.
Yeah, and before that, he was in a feud with Seth Rollins. So they're gonna
Yep.
have to explain like how now they're just kind of cool. Um,
Right. Because he sent him on injury, and that's why everybody was like, "What? No way." Um, but to be honest, he fits right in with that little trio. Paul Heyman, he doesn't have to be so much a wise man, more of a promoter, which that is what he is. But I'm saying he doesn't need as much screen time to tell stories with this new faction. He was a big component of the bloodline, being the wise man. So I guess before we get into Saturday night main event, if you don't mind, I just want to touch on things I am actually excited about. Things
yeah.
that I think are going really well for Raw, SmackDown, WWE. Um, One of the things is Aleister Black. His return is so great, John. He's slowly climbing into my top 10.
Mm.
I'll tell you why. He has a degree of muscle control very few performers have. He is very good at not missing spots. He's very good at picking up when something has been botched. And he has that muscle control that you might say a younger Undertaker had, that ability to not only maneuver where the momentum's going with his own body, but maneuver his opponent's momentum too, and turned it into something that's really fun to watch. Um, him and Mello, they put on a clinic. Those two are very interesting because Melo's fast. He's on the spot. He's upbeat, and then you mix that in with a technician who has so much muscle control. And do you know what I'm saying by muscle control? Like he isn't loose with any of his moves. He can have that exchange. He recently had it with Miz, where they were throwing back and forth their kicks, and I love how Aleister Black can really convince me that he's in a real flurry exchange. If you don't have muscle control, it comes off as loose and sloppy, and it's not believable.
I get what you're saying for sure. Yeah, and it's cool to hear you get like that new appreciation for him because like I've seen the guy for 10 years now or something. So there's things about like those little intricacies that I probably don't even pick up anymore just because I'm used to it.
Yeah,
But yeah, I one thing to note with those matches with Mello is like he's gone for his black mass finisher a couple times. He hasn't actually hit Mello with it yet, and Miz has taken seemingly a dozen of them. So um, we'll see if there's if there is a feud technically with him and Mello right now. Like, is it going to be over? Um, just actually trying to hit him with a black mass. It's not even about win loss.
yeah. Can
I'm,
we throw a Dronde back into that? That
I'd
would be
love it.
beautiful. I want that triple threat.
I'd love it.
Because that was a highlight that series. And I don't mean to interject, but can I just say that all the stars that have returned from AEW who have been released and joined the big brands, they have injected a level of intensity I greatly appreciate.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we joked about this before, but just like if you're from AEW and you go to WWE, like it's in the contract, like they're gonna push you immediately. uh, like I think the only example not of that is maybe Rusev, but it's still early. Like I just don't care about him beating up the Alpha Babes, you know. Um I forget if you said this or if I just thought it one time, but like it, Rusev versus like Rusev could maybe be in that like who's gonna face Goldberg for his final match kind of group. Um,
Yeah, him and Gunther.
Gunther and Braun Breaker. He just has like the build for it, and I think could put on a decent match with Goldberg. But that's just me speculating based on big guy is back. I don't. There isn't really anything to go off of. But um, how do you feel about so with Alistair? Like
Yeah.
his mic work, it's fine. I mean, he kind of does this like, let me tell you a story now about blah 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 blah. See, there was this, and they didn't understand the blah blah. And you know, there's smoke and
He came out of the woods and he's cloaked and
yeah, it's like Shinsuke in English almost.
Yeah, precisely. That's why I thought that triple threat with Aleister Black, Shinsuke, and LA Knight on SmackDown on paper was just killer. It was a good match, but it wasn't as good as it could have been.
Right.
Um, but yeah, you're right. That's a good way of putting it. Aleister Black is like the Americanized version of Shinsuke's energy.
Yeah. And so I'm like, yeah, about the promo work. I kind of always have been, but just when he has this presence about him that he's like, well, I mean, he just naturally has it from the entrance, just the rising up and the candles and all that. But yeah, when he's ominous like that, that's when it does more storytelling for me than his actual promo work. And like he kind of makes sense as like a leader of a group. Um,
Yeah.
but I don't know what that group would be or
Well, the word ominous, John, is just spot on. That's what he brings. Mystique, an ominous mystique. Um, and I could think of like the Brood when you
mm,
speak of factions. I could see something like that, the Ministry of Darkness. But you got to be careful because you got Wyatt Six. So like you can't have, and that was the issue for Karrion Cross and why they had AOP have that feud with Wyatt Six. It made sense. You got these two dark forces, these you know, these energies that are very similar. But yeah, Alistair, so Black could definitely be the head of some type of faction and have it be like Judgment Day but darker, and maybe a throwback to Edge and Christian when they were in that Brood with Gangrel.
I could almost see him running Judgment Day actually, if they like dumped Finn.
They should. They should.
I would like it, but I think the only reason why maybe it wouldn't work, I guess, now that I'm thinking about it, is Judgment Day is like a pseudo comedy kind of like angle, I guess, like just with how they treat, you know, how they intermingle and stuff. They're playing 2K
Yeah.
all the time, and
It's like a high
so
school like hangout for it.
yeah. So I don't think they're serious enough for Alistair. Um, but yeah. So his return's been good. Penta and Ray Phoenix,
Mm-hmm.
that's been a lot of fun. They're
Mm-hmm.
losing more than I figured they would, but it hasn't been like debilitating. You know, it's not like they have lost all their momentum now from losing to El Grande Americano or whoever. Um, and so yeah, Rusev came back. There was a couple call ups NXT wise. How'd you feel about those ladies?
Yeah, the women's division is fun to watch again. I really like that they put Rhea Ripley in the back seat, actually, and she's not the core focus anymore developmentally because she's already developed.
Yeah.
So seeing some star, and these are both women you months ago raved about on NXT.
Oh
You're like,
yeah.
dude, you need to tune in for just the women, and for like good reason, you know. Um, so that's been a highlight. I like Io Sky and Tiffany Stratton right now. I like where they're at. I like that Bianca Belair and Rhea Ripley have taken that back seat. And I also love seeing Charlotte Flair hungry again.
Yeah. They needed to do that. Like her just coming out being, I'm the best, blah blah blah, and then get booed and then get like flustered by the boos. Like I never understood that. Like she got booed most of her career. I guess it was just like because she was playing a heel like definitively in those times that she was like okay with it. Or now like when she came back, they clearly wanted to do the whole like I was out for 18 months with my injury and it was the hardest thing I ever had to do is rehab and get back to being back on the top and blah blah blah. But then she came out with that and everyone was just like, nah, we don't like this. This
Not buying it.
sucks. And she clearly got flustered by it because she's like, but wait, I'm babyface. What? Um,
Yeah, she did. She broke that wall. She was also going through a divorce. I don't know if that was nasty between her and Adrande, but I don't know, a low point in her life. But to see her have, if you caught the match on SmackDown, she actually shined again. She seemed confident. And so
yeah,
that's why I guess I mean she's hungry again. Maybe she's unblocking that fog. It's clearing. And she's like, oh, yeah, at the end of the day, I'm a performer. I should stop making this so personal.
yeah. That's definitely what she had to do because, or somebody just said, "Hey Charlotte, you're a heel now," and then it just clicked. Oh yeah, all right, I'll get booed. That's my role
That's right.
now. That's when you have 14 titles and you've been around for that long and you can't take getting booed out of role or whatever. Like just I don't understand, but um and
Yeah,
it might be a weird dynamic with her and Andrade being on SmackDown too.
sure. Sure.
But yeah, and like you said, she had a really good match. I don't think anyone ever thinks Charlotte has a bad match.
Except for
But
that Mania match.
yeah, and that was yeah. I suppose you're right.
It was personal. She made it personal.
Yeah,
And that's what you can't do because you can blur lines and you can draw from that, but you can't make it the core of your performance, especially if it's something you're bitter about.
right.
And that's what she did. Like the great wrestlers do draw from their personal life, but if you make it solely about it, then you're gonna come away a little bitter and hurt. And I think that's what happened to her, and she just needed to reevaluate who she is as a character, as a wrestler, not as an individual living life, you know? Like
Yeah,
there needs to be some compartmentalization. Otherwise, you get stuff like WrestleMania and her and Tiffany.
yeah, for sure. And so Charlotte was in that triple threat qualifier with Julia, who they called up from
Yeah.
NXT, and
Yeah.
Zelina Vega, the United States champion. And it seemed like Zelina was in there just to take a pinfall. Because Julia and Charlotte were they booked this so it looked like it was a big deal. They were in the ring together and they were just trying to out like brash each other. I guess like they were kind of doing the
Yeah.
ignore the small champion. Like they were kind of like what they were doing
The
with
Io
Io
Sky.
Sky. Yeah, exactly. Um, but yeah, so then ultimately Julia came out on top for that, so she's going to be in the Money in the Bank women's match. Raw officially drafted Roxanne Perez after I don't know how many months now she's been in and out of the show. I, did she? I think she won her qualifier match too. Um,
She may have. I kind of skimmed through Raw, the last Raw. I had a busy work week, but she may have. I will say I'm getting excited for Money in the Bank, because there's so much potential going into it with all the new angles they've developed. So I guess to capstone what I'm excited about, I'm learning to accept that creatively we like fell off a cliff after Mania and we're climbing back up the mountain of storytelling. And I'm getting excited for the new peak and the new views. Um, and I'm learning to accept that that climb is going to involve a lot of jarring new angles that I didn't anticipate to keep things fresh. As long as they don't make these angles myopic, meaning the Logan Paul effect. Have him come on a show, announce he's going to fight you at the main event of so and so, be gone for a couple weeks, have the main event. That's too short of a storyline for my taste. And I think if they cater to the new mark, the person who wants the social media updates, they're not going to watch all the matches in full. They're more interested in the celebrity gossip and interpersonal conflict than they are interested in the art of professional wrestling or physical storytelling. And so I'm excited to see where they go with all the new talent and angles. And I've learned to accept that John Cena is on a farewell tour. Um, there's new factions being built, there's new stories. And as long as they can take this all the way to the next Mania and have it make sense and have some consistency, I will forgive them for that really, really shitty WrestleMania main event.
Yeah, I'm not as optimistic. um, yeah, it to me just because like the build to Mania sucked and then post Mania has sucked. Like I I don't know. I just got to see it. I guess. I'll like you know I'll try to be optimistic for SummerSlam that they actually have some meaningful stuff built by August. But I mean,
They
yeah,
should.
I just got to see it. I guess. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, Money in the Bank. They've been doing qualifying matches for that. They announced a Worlds Collide pay per view for the same day earlier in the day. Just gonna contain WWE talent, NXT talent, AAA, and TNA, I believe. Um,
Yeah, it's quite an array.
and the only things I know that are announced for that for sure are gonna be like the Santos triple threat match with I don't know the exact luchadors names in AAA, but they're taking that faction, doing that, and then they did announce Vikingo versus Chad Gable,
Yeah.
and not El Grande Americano. So maybe that means he's gonna fight them both. I hope so. Once you see Vikingo, you're gonna be like, yeah, let's have him fight two other versions of Chad Gable. Like, I just want to keep seeing this. Um,
That would be great. I love what they're doing with Gable. He's another highlight.
yeah, for sure. And then they announced yesterday on the show too that they're gonna have WWE Evolution, which was the
Right.
all women's pay per view. Originally, they did in I want to say 2018, 2017. Um, and at the time, it seemed kind of like what's the word? Trying to save face on some stuff because like this is like right
Mm.
when they were getting into having shows in Saudi Arabia, and at the beginning they
Oh,
weren't
yeah.
like bringing women talent over at all for these shows. Not even just like what they do now, where like they're dressed like no skin below the neck, basically. But yeah, just a number of years ago they didn't bring the talent over at all, and people especially then we're like, oh, this is clearly a greed play. Like you're going somewhere where they have these ethical, things we don't agree with and stuff. But then, a month later, they're like, oh, we're gonna have this women's only PLE instead, and so like. I don't know. It was okay. It wasn't bad. It was monumental, in the sense that it's the first. They had this run of firsts for a
Oh,
number of years. So it's the first all women's pay per view. The first time so and so fought so and so. First time it wasn't called the Divas Championship anymore. Or whatever. Um, so it's interesting to me that they bring it back. Like it doesn't. I don't think they have to do it. Um, but
it's a heavy, heavy weekend. Isn't Bash at the Beach happening too?
maybe, yeah. I think some NXT something's happening, and then they're doing a Saturday night's main event same
Oh,
weekend.
okay. Yeah, the women entertainers that are performers or talent or whatever those women are, they're always in a state of like they are proving themselves. They are worthy. And that's how it's been since I started tuning in. I feel like when we were younger, they were just there for sex appeal
Hmm.
and it was just an honest like it was male chauvinist. Like it was just an honest male chauvinist angle for everything women on Vince's early attitude days. Um geez, can you hear somebody peeling out? Oh, somebody outside is like ripping up on the parking lot. But anyway, um I just want to say that they don't have to always be like the women have made it. I get it. They've already made it in my eyes. They perform at a high level. They have fantastic talent. They have a really broad range for their card levels already. Um, and I don't really think you need to save face or promote something solely for them. Because to me, they're no longer proving themselves.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, they'll probably do this. I don't know, every few years now or something. We'll see. I didn't hear where it was. I think it Georgia or something. I don't know.
Las Vegas.
Yeah, there you go. Everything's in Las Vegas. That's something else we could maybe touch on too. I don't know how much time you got, but
Well, I'd like to cover Saturday night's main event. And, next time we get on air, I kind of want to touch on some obscure topics, that being one of them, how their location and bidding process has worked out under TKO, and their lack of commitment to venue and culture. They really do seem to just go, "Oh, you're going to give us lots of money, huh? The numbers look good." Like you stated at the beginning of the show, that's the big driving force now behind a lot of their decisions. And that is affecting venue. Like Minneapolis. Anyway, that's one thing I'd like to touch on. I also want to touch on what it's like to be a good ref. And kind of, it
mm,
seems like out of nowhere, but I think I texted you. I feel like when a wrestling match is at its best, you forget about the ref. It's only when the match is like slow and you start kind of being like, "Oh yeah, that other guy. He's totally part of the story." But when it's really good and integrated, you don't really see or pay attention to him. But when it's bad, you start to be like, "Yeah, what is that all about? Who are these people who come out and pretend to negotiate a battle between two entertainers and they're doing as just as much character work as any of the wrestlers, but we take it for granted."
yeah. And I guess to feed into that a little bit, we didn't really talk about refs at all, except for I think when we did our what do we call it, Chronicle episode, when we were talking about WrestleMania 17, like we talked a lot about Mike Chioda and Hebner.
And Hebner. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, nowadays, if your name's not Charles Robinson, I don't know what your name is. um, but yeah, that'll be something fun to talk about down the road too. Um, as far as Saturday night's main event goes, we touched on Braun Breaker and Seth versus Punk and Sami Zayn. Um, Rollins and Breaker end up on top on that one. Bronson Reed, like we said, he came back. He returned for this. He took out CM Punk kind of twice. First time being with the ref distracted, he got pummeled through the barrier at the timekeeper's area. And then after the match, CM Punk was like going to go seemingly confront Paul Heyman, and
Yeah.
Bronson took him out again. Like I said, Bronson originally was like taken out by Seth, and they were feuding. So TBD why they're okay with each other, other than financial or political gain, I guess.
Yeah.
Did you have like any spots from that match or anything you wanted to highlight, or
I mean, going through the barricade, you always get a good Sammy butt springboard.
no?
But I was gonna say this match felt by the book, play it safe, and then when Reed came out, I was like, oh, that's why. That's why it was so by the book. They just wanted me to get to this. Um, so Braun Breaker was super exciting when he first got called up, and it's only now that he's living up to his potential, I'd say. The thing is, I'm not that excited as I was when he was initially called up. And I'll tell you why. He's really boring.
As like a personality?
A performer, as a personality and performer. I totally get that he's under the tutelage of Rollins now as the hired gun, and the big dog on a leash. Well, small dog, ravenous small dog on a leash. But is that the only way they can develop him at the level where he's at as a wrestler? Because I feel like everything else is very weak. Like his finisher move is boring. He puts that like extra oomph into it. But I've seen so many damn spears that I'm not excited when he hits it. And then every match I hear how fast he is. He's as fast as a cheetah, John. And he can run the ropes at 23 miles an hour. Uh, I guess what I'm getting at is like I'm so used to what he does now that from the call up to this faction, I don't feel like they developed him at all.
Yeah, yeah. I get where you're coming from with that. I don't think he's terrible or anything. And not that I'm saying you're saying that, but it's yeah, it's got a ceiling, and unless he becomes like fantastic on the mic, it probably is sadly gonna be like a Goldberg, or
Yeah.
like AEW as Wardlow, or maybe they still, I don't even know if they have Wardlow anymore, but that was like a travesty. Like that guy's so athletic. I think you saw him actually when
Yeah.
we went to AEW, and like
Yep.
it's like, why don't they do anything with this
Explosive.
guy? Um, but I guess Wardlow, yeah, Wardlow's moveset, I think at the end of the day is kind of boring too. But you don't really get to see him as much, so maybe that's part of it with Breaker. Like maybe he becomes like a more like a Lesnar, I guess, where like he is a big
Yeah.
draw and shows up periodically, and that's how they keep him interesting instead of actually have to keep him interesting on the fly.
This is the most interesting he's been. That's what's sad about his call up. He needs to be in this subordinate position under the tutelage of Rollins, or else he isn't interesting. Like I never was excited for his intercontinental matches. I was like, oh, I know what this is going to be, and I'm not sure why they have the title on you right now because you're not ready for this.
Yeah, no, with those matches, it was kind of like, oh, this is awesome. We get Kaiser in an IC match, or it's just always about who was facing Braun,
Right.
but then you knew they were going to lose, so I don't know why we were excited about it, but um, just maybe to see him get the opportunity, like a Butch, or um,
Oh, sure.
any of those kind of guys. Um, if I were to give a letter grade match, I guess, to this Saturday night's main event match, I'd probably go like a B minus. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. I would do a C plus. Were you genuinely like, did you celebrate the return of Reed? Were you like, finally, I'm glad he's back? Because I've been anticipating his return. Um, and it totally makes sense where they plugged him in.
Yeah, I'm very interested by it. I wasn't like, holy shit, Bronson Reed's back, but like I wish I would have been. Like I enjoyed it. I enjoyed his run before he got hurt a lot, like compared to like what anyone else had going on, and he's kind of
Yeah.
the only like giant now, even though he's not like towering tall, but he's thick. They don't really have like a Braun Strowman or any of those kind of big guys anymore. So
He made Strowman fun to watch. That's
true,
hard to do.
true, yeah. Put him through that car and whatever else. um, so I guess do you have anything else on Punk Rollins?
Uh, no, I feel bad for CM Punk because, like, I don't know where that goes from here. I don't know what he's supposed to be doing. And the whole night when Priest was in that cage with Drew, I'm like, I just feel like it's the same thing as what happened with Punk, but less interesting. I know
Yeah,
we're jumping the gun, but just relating it to CM Punk. Is CM Punk just gonna be this like obsessive personality that never actually gets a title in WWE until he retires? Is that like the plan for him creatively? Just move him from one obsession to the next?
maybe, or I don't know. I hope whoever they move the title off of Jay Uso to in the future is somebody that can feud with somebody like Punk.
Sure.
I don't know who that'd be though. Like it could be maybe Gunther again. I don't know. Um,
I thought Rhodes versus Punk was coming down the road. Um, but so the reason being, I didn't anticipate Cena's heel turn. And I thought if we have Rhodes turn heel and sell his soul, it would be the corporate angle again. And CM Punk would finally be vindicated as the rebel or the antithesis to that angle. And just as much of a creative way as Stone Cold was at one time. I feel like CM Punk has that energy. And if you don't use his rebellious spirit and the cult of personality he possesses correctly, then he's a wasted talent. And he knows that. That's why he's always so bitter about all of his like career with
right.
certain things. So yeah, I want him to have a feud that is meaningful. I don't want him to jump from, oh, he's obsessed with Drew Mac. I mean, that was both ways, but now he's obsessed with Polly and he's obsessed with this and he's just obsessed, folks. And he is this like anti-hero at the end of the day because you know deep down he's a little unhinged, but the fans love him because of his rebellious, symbolic, creative spirit. And so they need to channel that correctly, and it can't be against, it has to be against something or someone that the fans absolutely hate. He needs to be vindicated as the punk he is, before the end of his career.
Yeah. How do you think? I think they could get Gunther to that point of being like the guy that everybody hates. Um, I still think they have to do something with him, like whether it's to Jay Uso or some other babyface. He's got to take somebody out for like months, right?
Right, right.
And I think it's going to be Jay. I think it has to be Jay. I think he has to take out Jay for 6 months, and then Jay shows up randomly to help Jimmy with something, or like down the road.
Yeah.
I don't want him back so fast. And if he did come back fast, then it's like, well, Gunther didn't really even take him out then, because like that's kind of where we're at with the Pat thing. Like he kicked Pat's ass, but Pat was still around, so it's not like you took Pat from us or you took Jay from us, or
Yeah.
S-
Yeah, you're
I,
right, John. I like that.
so I think he needs that, and I hope that that's what they do, and then they get Punk to overcome him in some way, or maybe they start that with like Goldberg thinking he can, and then he fails.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, without getting too hypothetical, I'm with you on this because I think the best thing for Gunther is not to be solely a bully. He should be the Intercontinental Champion. You know what I mean? When he was that, he was all about this is about the integrity and the sacredness of the ring. And then he was a bully to those that he felt disrespected the tradition. And I want him to become that heel, and I want him to be not just a bully, but make all of it about I'm going to punish you because you don't take this or me seriously enough. And then I want CM Punk to come around and challenge that. But before we get to that point, I would love to see Gunther take the belt off of Jey Uso again, maybe at SummerSlam. And I want him to beat him so bad after the win that Goldberg comes out and is like, hey, pick on someone your own size. And we get that little feud. And then whatever you're doing with CM Punk, it has to cross that storyline. And I don't know if Goldberg's going to come out with a W for his last match, and even if it ever is against Gunther. But if you carry that feud, have that conclude and CM Punk come in for the road to WrestleMania versus Gunther, that would be a killer main event. Um, but they got to do it right, and they got to make sure whatever Punk's doing isn't less interesting than the Goldberg Gunther feud.
yeah,
If that happens, this is all so hypothetical.
I know. And I keep doing how are we gonna make this Gunther interaction with Goldberg from last fall make sense
It's not
for
even,
like
yeah,
months now. I just don't want to believe that it was nothing.
it can't be. Yeah, right. That you get all the tabloids suggesting Bill is seeking a retirement match. He has opponents in mind. But they also teased Lesnar versus Gunther at that Royal Rumble a couple years ago, and that is going to end up being nothing unless Goldberg is the fill-in for that, and that's where it's all coming
Yeah,
together.
yeah, I
Um,
suppose.
but who knows? Who knows? But yeah, C plus for that match. We'll see what happens. I feel like Sammy is another one in limbo now. He can't be Jiminy Cricket for like the rest of his. What I mean by that is he's so happy-go-lucky and like, yeah, let's help the good guy. Um, when is that gonna end, and when will he have some type of momentum again?
I was hoping he was going to be the one to take the title off Gunther, like if they really did the Gunther like long term thing, because they did that WrestleMania 40 with the IC.
And it
Like,
worked.
yeah, and it worked, and it just makes sense to me. Like, just have Sammy be the Gunther Kryptonite or whatever. Um,
Right.
but yeah, I don't know. And later we'll talk about not Sammy, but all right, what was I even getting at? What I don't even know what I was just gonna say. Never mind.
Well,
um,
just about just about Sammy being the one to slay Gunther would be a good way he can regain momentum. But I'm not sure what they'll do going forward after this tag team match.
yeah, I don't either. Um, Another match we had was the women's United States title match. It was Selena Vega versus Chelsea Green. Selena comes out on top again to retain. Um, Not much happened here. I'll just give the match a C. I don't even.
Solid C.
Yeah, unless you have something you want to talk about with it, we can just
No, no, very predictable. It's the best form I've seen Selena in since that
Queen of the Ring.
where she, no, when she was in her hometown or home country.
Oh yeah, the
Wasn't that
Puerto
Backlash?
Rico backlash after
Yeah,
40,
with
I think, or
yeah,
39.
with bad yeah, with Bad Bunny or whatever. So she's fun to watch. Chelsea Green, I always feel like those three, Piper Niven and especially whatever Dawn, I forget her full
Alba
name.
Fire.
Alba Fire. The other one got released.
Yeah, yep.
That's right. Thank you. I feel like they are always on the chopping block, except for maybe Green. But the other two, Piper Niven, I think they could get released at any time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind Piper Niven as a competitor. I mean, she's not like
Mm,
amazing, but um, she's kind of the uh, giant figure, I guess. Well, no, never mind. Nia Jax would be that, and then maybe Jade. Um,
oh yeah.
but I don't know. Like, I always think her matches are fine, but yeah, she's kind of on that. She could be cut any moment, or she's back on NXT, or they might
Right.
use her like they've done other like um not it wasn't TNA. I sent you something the other day. Natalia working in indie.
I was I thought you were gonna say Natalia because so if you're a good worker, she could fall into a Natalia situation.
Yeah, and maybe they'd let her work like oh, it was NWA for Natalia. Like maybe
That's right.
so
Yep.
she does like a something there, or TNA, or they let her travel, I guess. Um, I could see that. And Alba Fire, I don't I don't know a lot about her. I mean, like when I see her in the ring, I'm like, okay, like it's fine. I don't ever look at her matches and be like she's sloppy or bad, but I don't know what her like personality is, because like before it was this kind of witchy uh,
Yeah.
whatever going on, and then now she's bodyguard.
Didn't
So
they put the women's tag titles on those two right away when they got called up and
Alba,
it
yeah,
flopped?
Alba and Isla Dawn, and that was like when they were in Glasgow as their home
Yeah,
country.
that's right. Yeah, and everybody's like, "Wow, they threw him a bone," but if I recall, it flopped. They held it for like a month.
Yeah, it wasn't great, and they just gave it back up to Bianca and Jade, and
That's right. Yeah.
didn't do anything else. I think they maybe put them
Yeah.
in like some of those like 8-woman tag matches, or like the fatal 4-way tag, like whatever those are called. But yeah, I mean, I guess going back to Zelina and Chelsea, they're both like pretty solidified right now in the mid card. Um,
True.
Zelina, we brought up, I brought up that I think she just was in a triple threat match, take the pinfall for Julia earlier.
Totally.
Um, but yeah, as far as her place on the mid card, she's there now. This is her only title run, I maybe in any promotion even. Like I don't know if she had a title on the indies or anything. Um, but yeah, it's she's part of the group of women that I consider to be pretty talented and interesting. So
Oh yeah. Yeah, she's limber. She moves around very well. But yeah, I'd give it a C. Nothing special, nothing wild, just a solid women's match.
yeah, yep. And then we got John versus Ron. It
Yeah,
was a
yeah.
good
Ron
match.
Cena.
Yeah,
Oh
uh,
man.
they had our Truth, Ron Killings, come out to John Cena's theme music, and he had John Cena merchandise on where he just crossed out John, wrote Ron. Um, and he did the whole Cena entrance with the running to the ring and throwing up the threes, and it was funny. It was a good parody. I think the best John Cena parody. You can find this on YouTube. There's John Cena versus Invisible Miz, or sorry, Miz versus Invisible
Yeah,
John Cena. That's my favorite John
that's right.
Cena parody, because the cameraman just does everything as if Cena's there for the entrance, like following him down the ramp, and just it.
Oh yeah,
I love it,
that
but
is great. And Miz made fun of him too when he was doing that reality TV show with his girlfriend.
oh yeah.
And Miz like basically was a parody of him there being a sociopath. And but yeah,
Um, so yeah, John Cena comes out on top in this one. There was no title on the line. That's something I wanted to bring up. I'll bring up at the end the no title at the line thing because it seems like it's not going to be on the line at Money in the Bank either, based on
Mm.
how the main event went. Um, but yeah, I mean, this is just there to be a comedy match. It was there to, just give Cena an appearance to knock down. Um, as far as a match goes, C again, I guess.
I'll give it a C plus. I thought it had like if it was built a little better, it could have been a classic. My only complaint is you have a guy like Ron Killings, our truth, who is a masterclass humorist. And did you see how many months they let him run with Judgment Day parody? Why couldn't we have a longer build where we got a lot of Ron Killings time, where he's just making joke after joke, cutting just goofy promos about at John Cena's expense, and then have John Cena crush him. I wanted more. I wanted to see more of Ron Killings being the goofy guy he is, and I feel like it was just a very, very condensed package at Saturday night's main event. It was like you said, concise. Um,
Concise.
Yeah, so that's my only gripe. They could have done more with Ron Killings being there on the weekly shows to make goofy promos and make you anticipate him getting crushed even more.
Yeah,
Um,
and now that you're talking about it, like it would have made more sense just to have this more toward the end of Cena's heel run. Um,
yeah,
unless this
yeah,
is maybe towards the end of his heel run. I don't know. There's not that much time left, but
yeah. We don't really know. Did you think Cody Rhodes returning, even though that's at the end of the show, was that inappropriate? Was this the right place to have him come back?
well, it was very rushed because of where they were airing the show. Like he
Yeah,
just barely got out on the mic to end the show that it's gonna be me and R Truth versus Cena and Logan Paul, or not. Sorry, Cena and Jey Uso. So he just like mutters that out at the end, and that's what I was gonna bring up at the end. Is just like that's two world titles not on the next PLE, and this one it didn't have the WWE title on the line, and the Jey Uso match was versus Logan Paul. It's like when are when are we gonna have a real title match? Like, is it gonna be SummerSlam?
yeah, for real. Something that's not predictable with proper build. Um, so yeah, it is what it is. After our truth and Cena end, we step into another cage match that Drew McIntyre seems to be doing twice a year now.
Yeah,
You might as well make him like it could have been a Hell in a Cell. I mean, just they keep throwing him in cages. This was pretty good. Damian Priest has earned a lot of my respect. He's moved away from that juvenile delinquency component that Judgment Day had into a serious competitor who can play at the top of the card. But during his world title run, I still felt like he wasn't there and he was a mid card.
yeah, for sure.
Um, so I'd say that I'd give the steel cage match, I'd give it a B for being a steel cage match. I really got a kick out of Jesse Ventura being like, "What? Why did he go out the door? Who goes out the door? What the hell?" So like anticlimactic, and he kept saying it over and over again, and it reminded me when we were growing up. They barely ever went out the door. They always climbed over the top. So Jesse was probably like out of the loop, thinking like, was that a mistake? Was he supposed to go over the top?
Well, he was saying before the match even started, he's like, they're not even going to worry about leaving the cage. And
That's right.
so he had it set the whole time, like somebody was getting submitted or, uh, pinfall. So then,
Concerto.
yeah, Priest delivered, the concerto. Were they saying he did it to Edge back in the day, or was it Finn? Um,
See, I remember it being Finn, but they were talking about whoever was on commentary said, "Oh, he learned that from his former mentor, who he used it against." And I was thinking to myself, man, did I even see? Because I know Edge formed the Judgment Day, but I don't recall him getting concertoed by Priest.
yeah, I don't either, but um, yeah, I mean, there might have been more than one concerto to Edge, right? Like
I'm
maybe.
sure there was. Yeah,
um, did they
just look at the
do it?
guy.
They do it to Beth Phoenix. I can't remember. Like
Yeah,
they.
I think they were going to.
Oh
They were
yeah,
gonna
that's what made him
concerto
quit.
his
That was
wife.
what it was. He's in the I quit match.
I
Yeah,
know how this goes.
I quit. All right, fine. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So the concerto is obviously devastating. Interesting that he. I don't know. I kind of thought like Drew McIntyre would have been the one to like if they're gonna like be like he's got to resort to something like kind of
Oh
thought it would be
yeah.
Drew. But now we're kind of at two different cage matches. Like with the Punk one, he didn't really um, do what I'm trying to say, which is like the extra like go over the top to win. Like he didn't do that in
Oh yeah.
either of these defeats. So it's weird to me too that he's behind on this feud now too. Like as far as wins losses, um,
Yeah.
he
They
doesn't
don't
really.
like to have him come out on top.
No, I mean he always feels as big or bigger than whoever he loses a feud to. But yeah, it'll be interesting if they rinse and wash this again, and then put him in a cage match with somebody, and then he actually comes over. But I don't really want to see the ride for that, I guess. And-
Right, right. And they really push Priest on us, man. And his first title defense too was terrible. He got like caught up in the ropes, I think.
oh yeah,
He just
yeah,
an amateur botch. It happens to the best of them, but like I've seen Priest time and time again have loose footing and make mistakes that are very obvious.
yeah. Um, so did I say a grade for that? Um,
I gave it a B.
okay. I'm gonna go with a minus. Like I think it was a really good
Yeah,
match still.
it was. Yeah,
It was definitely the best match, right? Um, I think.
lengthwise, quality wise, I'd say so.
Yeah. Um, and then was it just the tag match that was left? I think, or not even. And sorry,
Uh,
not tag match. The title match. Jay and
yeah,
Logan
just
Paul.
just Jay and Paul. Yeah, going into that, this all reeked of new Mark territory, right? Whenever we get a Paul feud, it's him coming out being like, "And when I land that right hand punch, you won't even know what hit you. Blah, blah, blah. Tune into my podcast." And then,
So humble.
yeah, so humble. Can't even appear once a week. So humble. And uh, then he gets in the ring with Uso, who is the most baby face of baby faces right now. Um, and I did not expect I did not expect Paul to win. I actually expected some type of disqualification. I
Mm,
was like, okay, how are they gonna make this be not a match? Um, and I was a little upset too because I was like, it's gonna be not a match twice tonight, with Cena and then this. But it was all right. I liked seeing Uso like intercept a lot of Paul's moves because usually the way they book Paul, he lands some really, really big spots. And I felt like this match, Uso countered him a lot. And it was good to see because I got tired of like these veterans having to take bumps for this dickhead, Logan Paul.
yeah,
And
true.
so I just kind of liked seeing Jay super kick him off like a backflip or whatever, or a forward flip. That was great. Just having some good counters to Logan Paul was fantastic. He's gonna draw heat by just being Paul. You don't have to have him land all his big spots to have eyes on the product.
Yeah,
And
totally.
it's self-evident too because he doesn't appear weekly. Why Let me ask you this, John. Why are we not getting any full-time Logan Paul weekly shows? Why can't the guy wrestle a weekly show?
I don't know, and I don't understand too why he can't do more like social media promos that end up on wrestling or whatever, cause or on the actual show, cause fucking he's more accessible than anybody, but you just don't see him. Like it's so easy to just pull out an iPhone. Like freaking Kanye West's Super Bowl commercial was on an
Right.
iPhone. Like um, I don't get it, and I think I said this last time. Like a lot of the social stuff that comes out of that universe is like just kind of recapping or like highlighting stuff that's happened, and it's not like an additive to pushing a story anywhere further or concluding anything. Um, so yeah, I don't know why either. They can't just like have him FaceTime into Raw, even like just like show up
Like
on like
interrupt people. Yeah.
yeah, just show up on the uh, jumbotron, just be like, hey, screw you or whatever. Like
Hey yo.
yeah, that exactly. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, match. This match itself was like you said, it was good to see Logan not just automatically get all his spots. Um, Cena came out at the end to try and help Logan win to ruin wrestling, and I liked I liked that he was so in on that. Like I almost wanted Logan to win just so we could be like, "Oh, now we can like have some
Really
angle of
ruining wrestling.
Cena, yeah, like find out what Cena has been doing to the creative team or what, like actually making the product worse." That would have been somewhat ingenious, but yeah, I gave this match I don't know. A C again. I'm giving everything a C.
It was an average show. It wasn't like stellar, it wasn't bad. It was an average show. Predictable, safe, good clean fun. Uh, but I give it a C plus. It almost hit B territory. It would have hit B territory if I would have been able to see a finish that wasn't a disqualification like event, even though technically it was like a proper finish. Once you involve other people interrupting the match, then I'm just like, well, who knows what's going to happen now with the finish. Um, to have Uso pull one over Paul clean, I think it was needed, and they didn't let him do it at the expense of his like championship run, in my opinion. I don't take him like Jey Uso is a great entertainer, but I don't tune in to see him wrestle. And he was only interesting because he was countering Paul. Otherwise, I don't pay much attention to his matches. I don't get excited over his booking.
No, and he'll get in the four eats or whatever. Um, yeah, it's just not exciting. Um, so yeah, Cena tries to get the get Logan over on him, and then that is interrupted by the returning Cody Rhodes, who I just had proclaimed dead the other day in text message to you.
Yeah,
Like
he
there's just
died.
they just didn't talk about him. It was like he just vanished. Is like
Same thing happened to the Pope after John Cena won.
true.
That's probably too soon. I apologize to all of our Catholic listeners.
It's like half of our base.
Um,
Yeah.
it's half our base. We really shot ourselves in the foot on that one.
There's a lot of Lutherans though. So
All right, they're our saving grace. Um, yeah. Overall, Saturday night main event didn't like. I'm still holding out for the right path to emerge, and I am with you. I think I texted you saying, "Hey, man, SummerSlam is my deadline for their creative ability to prove to me that they haven't lost their sense of like creative direction." So we'll see. This event didn't do it. It did some fun things, but it didn't do it. And now it seems like you just said we're gonna have like some non-title filler match again with Cena to check another appearance off the box or off the calendar.
Yeah. So to me, that means that like I don't know who Cena's gonna feud with individually if it's not gonna be Cody again now, just based on how this is going. Um, we'll see with all that. I guess yeah. So I didn't mention this yet, but we had talked over text, and the the live viewing of this was really bad just because of
Oh,
all the commercials, and I just it honestly felt like there'd be 2.5 3 minutes of entrances or whatever, unless you're eating, and then there would be some little bit of exchange in the ring, 3 or 4 moves, and then somebody would get dumped off the top ropes, and then you get like the lead in into a commercial, and they just like do the replay of it just a little bit slower going over the ropes. I felt like I saw that like 8 times. So it almost seems to me like maybe this is way overthinking it, but um I'm sure the show was really good if you were there, right? Like you didn't
oh,
get
sure.
interrupted by commercials. Um if they're going to try to like I don't know, push so many commercials to make people want to be like, well, let's go to the live event to actually have a true fun experience watching wrestling or whatever. And
Right.
like those prices just keep skyrocketing to actually
Oh,
go. Um,
yeah.
so I don't really like this. I don't know. Can you call
And
it a
you think that's
dichotomy?
intentional? Yeah. You
Potentially,
seem, yeah, you seem to think it's a strategy, which I never thought of, but it makes sense, right? Exorbitant, uh, actual stadium prices or whatever. And then you're going from a premium live event to an average live event. All the commercials, they certainly interrupt the experience or disrupt. And being there live is fun. And I've also mentioned to you, thinking back, it does make sense if this is like a weird business strategy because they put the title on Jay, and Jay is a very, very fun thing to see live. Like, I
true.
think his whole draw is to get people butts in seats. They go, "Don't you want to eat with the champ?" And it's one thing to watch and yawn from your couch for 5 minutes, but when you're there, it is a spectacle.
Right. And I don't know. I wish they had other guys that would come out of the crowd that weren't like eating or whatever. Like just bring back like a Sandman or something. Just come out and because yeah,
Why
the
not?
crowd entrances are always really hyped. But yeah, I don't know if it's really a strategy or not. I don't because it would work opposite too. I would think like if like they did so many commercials that it's deterring from watching live, like that's not good either for them. Um,
Right.
just to get butts and seats for exorbitant prices. I think most of their money comes from like TV and stuff now. So I
Yeah, I'm not
but
sure.
yet they they announce every show's the biggest gate they've ever seen.
Always.
Yeah. Um, I guess so. One thing I wanted to touch on quick because I brought it up in text and didn't get out here. There was a really good tag team title match on
Yeah.
SmackDown. Fraxium, who they called up a month ago, they've been on fire. They're coming out of NXT on fire. Like the only time I can recall on NXT, they had like any kind of like rift or anything, but between them was they were both participating in the speed tournaments when they
Yeah.
came out with that title, and they had the NXT tag titles at the time. So like both of them were accusing the other one of being more focused on the speed tournament than the tag tournament, but
Mm.
it wasn't like a huge falling out or anything. But um, that's like the only like yeah any sort of interruption to their continuity really has been. So they leave NXT. They drop the titles on their way out on Roadblock, or I forget what show it was, but they lost to some tag team I never heard of in NXT, and then
Mm.
came over to SmackDown, and they've gone over every week until Friday when they were actually in a tag title match. I was telling you, I wish that they just put this on Saturday night's main event, just because it
They
seemed
should have.
like a better match than almost anything other than the steel cage match, maybe. Um, but they did it for SmackDown because they needed a main event for the show. But then this match was interrupted by the return of the Wyatt Six, who we haven't seen since they were uh, traded to SmackDown or whatever they called that, like contract transfer window. That's what it was, transfer window. They called it. Um,
Yeah.
they weren't ever on SmackDown, I don't think, or maybe they were once after that. But so it's been months, and they're back now, and so they throw themselves into this and get the match no contest result essentially. Um, so if this is getting them deep into the waters of the tag division and they actually have some run there and they do more than like what they had been doing with these like five tag teams or whatever where they just kind of all hate each other.
Cycle the belts.
Yeah, the cycle of the belts with all of them and stuff. If they actually are going to be big players in the tag division, then I get why they save this for a SmackDown and not a PLE event where they were going to have Cody Rhodes return as well. Like they don't really stack returns like that. But there is also part of this when you see the show going off the air. Uncle Howdy has a birthday cake. Um,
Yeah, that's right.
so and he blows it out, and then the show goes off the air. Well, go and Google search. That was Bray Wyatt's birthday on Friday. So they, I think they could have possibly returned a few weeks ago, kind of thing, but they saw this opportunity of Bray Wyatt's birthday's on a Friday. Let's return and
Let's
do
do
this
it.
little
Yeah.
homage. Um, so I don't know how long they could have been back technically, but I do think that's what they were waiting for, and I'm
Yeah.
okay with all of it as long as, like I said, they are actually players in the tag division. Otherwise, like this match was just a vehicle to get them to return, which is unfair to the competitors. But um, that's kind of all I had on that. I just wanted to bring up the significance of Bray Wyatt's birthday and why they
No,
returned when
that's a
they
good
did.
point. That's a really good point. And they could have just returned to disrupt and reestablish because it was the birthday, and they're like, "Well, we have this big main event. How about you go disrupt that, and we'll carry on, and you do your own thing over here." So it could just be that. I know I hear rumors of Alexa Bliss somehow crossing paths with Wyatt Six over and over again. Um, and Fraxium, another one. So Aleister Black, Fraxium. Oh, that intensity that Frazier and Axiom bring. They are so much fun to watch. And oh man, we're like drowned. The mid card has never been so bloated, but it's not like bloated with fat. It's bloated with like real good. It's built. It's solid. Any of these people could easily become the next face of the company if they're built correctly and packaged just right. Because, dude, on both on Raw and SmackDown. The mid card has been consistently the most entertaining to watch for in ring performance. So um, I don't want them to cycle the belts for the tag division. I would like to see Wyatt Six get put in that whole conversation, but I also think it's unlikely. And they were there just to disrupt and reestablish a presence. And we're eventually going to get Fraxium come out on top with the belts.
Yeah, you're probably right. I just want to be hopeful for one thing.
It would be really cool because what they did with Wyatt Six on Raw was uneventful, unremarkable. Besides their presence, you got to give them something to actually chew on. They can't just disrupt like they're the Undertaker with no real substance. The
Yeah,
Undertaker had substance. He could disrupt but also carry belts.
and they also like blew off them like essentially doing a genocide when they debuted. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
like they
That
can't
was
do
like a
that
dark
again.
twisted. Right. We had that. We had like The Rock, Bloody Cody, and everybody's like, once we hit Netflix, it's gonna be a crazy time. Things are gonna get raw and uncensored. And I feel like we've actually inched closer to a PG model again.
Yeah, it's closer to Disney Plus than um, what people at ECW of '95 or whatever people wanted.
Jeez. Yeah. Well,
um,
even the aggression, the ruthless aggression era had tons of crazy stuff happen. Like I sent you that JBL promo on John Cena. JBL during the aggression era was he was hilarious. He had like anti-immigrant promos. He would like just say all this classist, racist stuff on air.
yeah,
I don't know. All I'm saying is that was probably the Ross we since the Attitude Era. That's about it.
for sure. Um, I just thought of how White Six could do a genocide again. They'll just go to TNA.
They should. They could. Oh, yeah. Well, I'm happy that they have that cross brand play, but you and I both know that this is actually WWE's secret way of taking
Yeah, they're just
over. Uh, they don't care about ratings with AEW. Yeah, they're
they're
stealing
just
all the roots. They're
boxing them
buying
out.
out and
Yeah.
yep, box them out. That's it.
Um. Yeah. So I was gonna say one other thing, and then probably get going here. What was it? I hate that. Just had
Oh
something
yeah,
I thought was
brother.
gonna be prevalent, and then go off the air. But I got
I like the
nothing.
aesthetic though. I like the
Thank you.
aesthetic. I feel
Yeah.
like this is your Super Saiyans get up. Like
Yeah.
you've just
It's
you've upgraded.
EX
Got the
form
reflectors.
in
Yeah,
Pokemon or
for
Ultimate.
sure.
Um,
I like it.
next time I'll come on as Wesker from uh, Resident Evil.
I mean, probably the wrong material, but
I'll just be a different character every week.
yeah, John's gonna cosplay all of the future shows with non-wrestling related characters.
But then act like I'm Cactus Jack and Mankind and
Yeah, and off air, I will probably have the police do a welfare check.
it's not a bad idea. Just have
The
a
walls are closing in.
yeah. I don't. It would be too on theme to wear a penta mask now. So
We're gonna do it though. We should have a lucha day.
that'd be fun. That would be
That would
yeah.
be.
We'll have to figure something out for that. Um, but yeah, coming up will be Worlds Collide and Money in the Bank, and we touched on that a little bit. That'll be a full day of wrestling. It's going to be the same day, different Los Angeles venues. So that'll be fun. I always like ladder matches, so Money in the Bank,
Yeah.
always solid. They're going to have a decent variety of people in there. And yeah, we'll see. Like, they're gonna obviously have Fatu and Solo on the men, so we'll see if that advances anything between their inevitable um, falling out, whether it's in a month or 2 years. It,
We'll
it,
see.
yeah, it's just gonna feel into that. We'll see who else is in there. But yeah, did you have anything else you wanted to discuss at all before we take off today?
No, except for I will say if the bloodline wants to get reinvigorated, they should go and learn and take a lesson from the Eddie Guerrero, Rey Mysterio, Dominic angle, and they should involve intermarital affair in the bloodline story. That's about it.
Yeah, I just don't see who would be able to do that, I guess.
Just
Um,
get somebody off of Craigslist.
there you go. Yeah, whoever Godfather used on the yellow pages or whatever.
50
Anyways,
bucks an appearance. You're Brenda now.
50 and a beer. But,
Yeah, there you go.
well, thanks everybody for joining us. We will catch you next time and have a good Memorial weekend.